My name is Chris Northover and I'd like to talk to you about touring. Yeah, it's boring, isn't it? Let's talk about supermotos instead. This is KTM's new 890 SMT. It is a touring bike, but it's sort of a supermoto as well. And I bloody love it. Woo! That's fun. So what's the SMT? When you look at it very quickly, everyone is going to say it's the KTM 890 Adventure with some 17-inch wheels in. It kind of is, but it kind of isn't too. It's a supermoto first and a touring bike second, that's what they say. Tim also said that we think some of the other bikes in this class are a bit generic, a bit bland, and we definitely didn't want to fall into that category. So they have made another, what a surprise, they have made another bonkers KTM. They keep doing it and they have to be applauded for it. The whole point was to make a usable, comfortable supermoto that can make distance. Not a new thing. KTM made an SMT before and they're looking to rekindle some of the cult following that bike had with the new 890 SMT. So while they did just chuck 17-inch wheels into an 890 Adventure to start with, they've gone a bit further than that. They've put a longer fork on the front end of it to get the geometry back to where it should be. They've changed the fuel tank. It's narrower at the bottom, carries more fuel up high to make the bike turn and respond in a more sporty road bike manner. And then throughout the rest of the bike, although it borrows parts from the 890 Adventure, it uses different calibration in the traction control, different calibration in the ABS. It's kind of that bike, but properly modified. And the bottom line is, an 890 Adventure with sticky tires and supermoto suspension, it's kind of exactly what we wanted. It's a properly fun little bike. So at the moment I've got it set into street mode, so the softer throttle response. I've got traction control on normal, on the sort of normal road setting. ABS I've switched to supermoto because you need to do skids every now and then. But anyone who's used the KTM will be familiar with the dash. It's the same sort of easy to use 5-inch TFT screen. Sport, rain, track, that will do. And then in track mode, I can adjust throttle response, street, rain, sport. I like the street sport response. There's a slip adjuster which then I can dial up and down. ABS, traction control, quick shift to plus. One thing the KTM doesn't do, they don't separate out the wheelie control function on this bike. So if you want to get it into wheelie, you've got to turn the traction control down. It's not a separate setting on the dash. So now I've moved the bike into the track setting. You can actually now toggle the traction control up and down while you're riding. And one thing they now do is if you press and hold for 4 seconds, you can go to traction control setting 0, which lets you turn the traction control off altogether. Now, being an 890 derived bike, it means we've got 105 horsepower, we've got pretty similar weight to the Adventure, same sort of torque figures. It's, you know, it feels very similar. And a lot of people have pointed out straight away that if you're buying a road bike, Why would you buy the SMT over, let's say, the Duke 890, which has got more power and costs less? It's a good question, and if you went onto a beautiful smooth A road and charged around for 6-7 hours, you'd probably come out liking the Duke more. However, if you then went on a big trip, you wanted to ride across country, across continent, you wanted to chuck luggage on it, you wanted to be able to have a high screen, you wanted to do a longer distance tour, but without sacrificing any of that fun, any of that playfulness in the turns, that's where this bike comes into its own. It's a supermoto, but touring. It's got range, it's got a bit of capability to go further. It has more travel, so it's 180mm wheel travel, so it does have that extra bit of compliance. So when you're rattling through a bumpy cobbled street on the 890 Duke, that bike handles that stuff really well. On this, it doesn't just handle it well, it lets you ride hard and fast and enjoy it. So instead of just surviving a bumpy road, you're attacking it. You're going flat out, charging into corners, where on the Duke you'd be going, it's comfy for a sports bike. Look at the state of this road. Look at the state of it. And instead of riding along, rattling my fillings out and panicking that I'm going to lose the front, we're charging it. We're actually razzing along this road, bouncing through the potholes and gravel. That's why you buy an SMT. Now at the other end of the spectrum, you've got the 890 Adventure, which is kind of the other problem this bike has. The 890 Duke, phenomenal bike. The 890 Adventure, especially the non-R version, pretty damn good on the road. And you've got to be riding that thing really hard before you start getting to the limit of the skinny front tire and the skinny rear wheel. So a lot of people are going to ask, why would you buy this over an 890 Adventure? My response would be to kind of switch that on its head. If you're buying a bike and you're not intending to go off-road, if you've no desire to go charging down muddy tracks, why would you saddle yourself with the skinnier wheels and the adventure look? Why not go for something that has more grip, more agility, steers faster, and feels altogether a more dynamic and playful bike? That's your call, but it does make sense in its own way. Now finally, the other bike that, even in KTM's own little world, is the kind of thorn in the side of this one, it's the SMCR 690. A bike very close to my heart, a thing that I absolutely love, but even I'll be the first to admit, the SMCR 690, phenomenal bike on a mountain road. It'll attack all of the bumpy, gnarly, snotty little roads that this loves, and it'll do it faster, more aggressively, and it'll put a huge smile on your face. It also costs less money. However, if you ride an SMCR 690 at 80%, 70%, a cruisy ride, it becomes a tall, hard, uncomfortable bike that feels a bit vague at the front end, and it doesn't really make much sense. That thing wants to be ridden hard, and if you don't ride it hard, it's kind of a waste of time. And to be honest, don't even talk to me about a 4-hour motorway journey on a 690 with no fairing in the winter. You'll definitely find me on one of these before then. I think in all these discussions and all these comments we've seen already, like as soon as we put this up on Facebook that we were riding this bike, everyone was hammering us about, oh yeah, but you would buy this, or we should buy this. The SMT in this 890 form, it really reminds me of just how the 990 SMT was when that was launched a million years ago. This thing will be the best bike on the planet for a very slim number of people. For the right person that buys this, that wants it, they are going to absolutely adore it. It's going to hit the mark. It's going to be the right balance of road performance, comfort, practicality, touring, and childish, stupid hooligan attitude that KTM's famous for. This is a childish motorcycle. For everyone else, it will probably be either a little bit too touring, a little bit too sporty, a little bit too kind of trying to do too many things. It's not a bike for everyone, but for those people who love it, man, they're gonna love it. And that's exactly the same story as the old 990 SMT. You talk to someone who owns one, they've probably still got it, and they'll tell you it's the best bike in the world. Here we go, same thing, newer, better suspension, more modern technology, and a more economical engine, and thankfully, miles better fueling. This is a closed road. KTM have shut the road so that we can go flat out up and down it. Called it the SMT hill climb. Probably tells you everything you need to know about KTM. No nannying, no please go slowly, please don't ride over your limits, none of that. Just here's an amazing road and a really cool bike, send it. And I think that puts you in two camps. You're either into that, in which case you probably already own a KTM, and if you're not into that, probably haven't watched this far on the video. In a current industry where we're being bullied about constantly being safer and more careful and calming things down, it's so nice to have a manufacturer that stays the same as they were 20 years ago. You know, the bikes are better developed, they're better engineered, they're easier to ride if you are going slower. But they've kept that hooligan instinct, that kind of send it attitude. Most of all, they've kept remembering that motorbikes are supposed to be fun. They're not responsible, they're not sensible. A Ford Fiesta's sensible. Motorbikes are a daft idea. There's no rationality to them. And that is why we like them. And KTM has not forgotten that. Got to love them for that. There isn't another manufacturer out there right now that would let us do this shit. Sure, Ducati did a hill climb, but it wasn't like this, and they sure as hell weren't standing at the start saying, just send it.